Hey, this is Jeff Wortham. I am going to quickly cover for you how to adjust the percentage of water for your controller, your irrigation controller. The reason being is we have times where the weather fluctuates. Today it's supposed to be 100 degrees. It's in mid-September 2011. And the whole week is supposed to be hot here. Last week it was in the 70s and 80s. And obviously the demand on your plants on this kind of cycle is quite different than it was a week ago. And what I recommend is that you have your cycle set up for kind of an average. This summer in our area it has been in the mid to high 80s on average, and that would be the baseline that I would set my controller for. When I get times where it's 10 degrees hotter like we're getting this week, then I need to make an adjustment in my sprinkler system. Now there's two ways to do that. I have an automatic ET controller, and you see this device up on top here. This this right here is talking to a local weather station, and it's doing all this adjusting for me. Some of you will have these and most of you won't. And for those of you who don't, I want to show you this very important button to understand on your controller. This controller is one we've been using for years, so most of you should have this controller. You'll see right here it says seasonal adjust and percentage, and that's what we want to look at. This is a great way to make a quick adjustment to your entire system without taking a bunch of your time. So let's get into it. What you do is you turn your controller dial over to seasonal adjust, and you see right there it says seasonal adjust. Secondly, now you want to say, well, which program am I dealing with? Typically your programs are set up for lawn, and then shrubs, and then drip, or something like that. That should be listed on your little card here that tells you how that was set up. So I'm going to presume you know that information. So this one, you need to tell it which program you're talking about when you're making this adjustment. So what you want to do is put it in, I'm going to have this in program A, and for my yard that's my lawns. So now it's going to go up here and it's going to say, well, do you want an individual program adjustment or by the entire month? And I just want to do a program. So I'm going to push 1. And now it's saying, okay, what percentage do you want? Now 100% is what it's already at. So you need to get up to 100% if you're trying to increase the amount of water just to be at the beginning point. Hope that makes sense. So see, it automatically stops. That's where it already is. Now it's going to be 10 degrees hotter than my average. So what I do is I bump it about 20%, because if you start with 85 degrees and you add 10 to that, that's a 15 to 20% bump. So to be careful, I bump it 20%. You can decide what number you're comfortable with, but I'm trying to make sure my plants don't get scalded or shocked. That's the whole point of this exercise. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to bump this up to 20%, 120%, and I'm done. Now I'm going to go to program B. I'm going to go through the same exercise. So here's program B. I push 1, and I'm going to take it all the way up to 120%. So you see what I'm doing here is I'm just telling this thing, hey, I need some extra water right now. If you have an ET controller that is connected to, there, we're done. I'm done. That's how fast it is, and that's what I want you to know, because it is so easy. You should be doing this whether it's getting warmer or cooler, instead of trying to reprogram every station on your clock. This is the way to go. So establish a baseline during the part of the summer that is most consistent, which is kind of June through August, and then reduce and increase accordingly as the weather changes. I typically, when we get into November and it's cooled down enough, I shut my clock off for the winter, and I don't power it back up usually until March, April. If we get a warm period somewhere in between there, I'll come on here and I'll go to a manual cycle. And again, this is a really important thing to understand. If you say it's only going to be hot for 2 days and then it's going to cool down, this is another way to deal with it. You go to a manual watering cycle, says you want to start a valve or do you want to start a whole program? And I would say, well, I want to start a whole program. So, okay, you're on program B down here. So it says you want to do that? Yep, I want to do that. So you hit run. All of program B is going to run a manual cycle. That if you only get a 2 or 3 day period where you're worried about, then that's a good way to handle that, because then you don't have to remember to come back and readjust the percentage in a few days, because that is part of what you'll have to do. Okay, I've covered more than I wanted to, but I think these are really critical things to understand, and if you understand these, you understand most of what you'll have to do in an entire irrigation season, and it just makes your life a lot easier. See there? I got action over there. My sprinkler system kicked on. And by the way, then all you do if you go, oops, I didn't really want to do that, I was just showing something, you just hit off, you give it a minute, watering done, and then you stick it back to auto. You're set. I hope that helps. Good thing to understand about your system. Take care. By the way, if you have this system, this is the ESP-LX modular controller by Rainbird. That little guy up there, this controller can be put on an automatic system that's either connected through a cell phone line or one of these little transmitters. And you should talk to your contractor about getting that hooked up if it isn't already, because this will make your life easier. I don't have to do these manual cycles with this controller. It tells it that the weather is hot and it pushes up the water accordingly. So this is a great way to have a more efficient system without you having to think about it at all. I think that's worth the money right there. It's probably a couple $100 to get that done. All right, bye.